He led a suicidal mission he once called impossible. December 2nd, 1943. Montilá, Defensa. A cliff so steep, generals called it a suicide mission. But under darkness, the 1st Special Service Force climbed it. No bullets. Just combat knives, bayonets, and the shadows of elite killers. They took out German sentries, one by one. Leading them? The guy who'd written off the mission as impossible just months before. His name, Robert Tryon Frederick. After 2 hours of brutal fighting, a radio call from the summit. La Defensa is ours. The desk man just did what an entire Army Corps couldn't, and he was just getting started. When Pearl Harbor hit, Major Robert Frederick was safe behind a desk in Washington. War Plans Division, working for Brigadier General Dwight D. Eisenhower. Frederick's job: analyze, evaluate, identify risks, not inspire, decide what could and couldn't be done. At 34, he made lieutenant colonel, but feared his desk duties would lock him down for the war. Then, across the Atlantic, something shifted his career violently. Early 1942, Churchill was obsessed with Project Plow, an inventor's wild idea, a small elite force deep behind enemy lines in Norway. They'd use snow sleds, blow things up, then vanish. Churchill saw genius. The military saw a nightmare. Marshall asked for an assessment. Eisenhower punted to Frederick. Frederick analyzed it like a planner, not a dreamer. His report? Blunt. It relied on non-existent gear, occupied territory, and had no escape plan. Troops would have nowhere to go. Conclusion: limited value, high disaster risk. A suicide mission. Normally that's game over. But Churchill pushed. Disruption appealed to him. Eisenhower, now in England, didn't kill the project. He made a different call. If it was happening, the man who knew its flaws best would lead it. Frederick was summoned, ordered to command the very plan he deemed suicidal. The man who said it wouldn't work now had to make it work. No unit, no doctrine, no precedent. 6 months to build a force from scratch, train them, fight them. On a concept he'd warned would kill everyone. The ultimate army joke. He proved it impossible, so they promoted him and told him to prove himself wrong. Frederick grew up near San Francisco's Presidio. For a military-obsessed kid, it was like living next to a candy store of discipline and gunpowder. He skipped gym for junior ROTC, hitting the rifle range instead of chasing a ball. But he wasn't a rule follower. He was a problem child. At 14, he lied about his age to join the National Guard. Didn't work, so he lied again to join the Maritime Union. His dad gave up. Ironically, that's when Frederick got serious. He decided to be a soldier, but walk in the front gate, not sneak around the back. He set his sights on West Point. At the academy, the failure transformed. He thrived on the rigor, edited the yearbook, fenced varsity, mastered every firearm, and graduated to cadet commander. He joined the Coast Artillery Corps. Heavy math, rigid procedures. His early career was mundane. Logistics in Panama, leading a civilian conservation camp, babysitting civilians in uniform. But it taught him to lead men who didn't have to listen. A useful skill. By 1941, as a major in Hawaii, his insight caused trouble. He wrote a study warning of a surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. It was read, ignored, a pattern. Frederick would spot disaster, warn everyone, then watch the world learn the hard way. July 9, 1942, Colonel Frederick began forming the 1st Special Service Force. It wouldn't be all American. British planners demanded Canadian troops. Frederick integrated them directly, not as a separate unit. Mixed units meant simpler command and better teamwork. Training started at Fort William Henry Harrison, Montana. Isolated. Cold. Time was short, standards weren't. The original idea was Arctic sabotage. Training focused on potential conditions, not the flawed proposal. Mountain climbing, skiing, long treks with gear were mandatory. They learned to fight in cold, darkness, rough terrain, without vehicles. Insertion methods expanded. Though not airborne, Frederick required parachute training. He jumped himself during training. Ensured air deployment was possible. Close combat was key. Firearms weren't always the answer. They trained with knives, bayonets, silent movement, expecting close-range contact. Equipment was an operational problem. Standard issue wasn't enough. They got specialized cold-weather gear and lightweight tracked vehicles, M29 Weasels. The V-42 combat knife was designed for them, lethal at close range. The structure reflected the same logic. 3 small regiments, a service battalion, each designed to operate independently. Logistics and maintenance integrated. Frederick oversaw everything. Inspected training, adjusted standards. Procedures that only existed on paper were scrapped. By late 1942, the Norwegian mission was dead. The force was a weapon without a target. In the military, no mission means no existence. Luckily, the Pacific needed them. Allied planners wanted Kiska back from the Japanese. The environment was harsh, remote, miserable, perfect for the force. But the invasion plan? A problem. The landing commander wanted Frederick's men as a suicide screen for the main army. Frederick read it and refused. His elite troops weren't disposable speed bumps. He forced them. The insertion methods got a major upgrade. Even though it wasn't officially airborne, Frederick insisted. Parachute qualified. He nailed his first jump during training. The requirement: air deployment ready, close combat. Firearms weren't a given everywhere. Troops trained mastered knives, bayonets, and stealth. They were ready for anything. Here are a few options for your TikTok/YouTube caption, focusing on being short, engaging, and natural sounding. Slime option 1, direct and punchy, asterisk. Greater than close contact. No warning, no backup, equipment check. Scharnstein's option 2, slightly more narrative, asterisk. Greater than unexpected close quarters contact. No backup, gear up. Option 3, emphasizing urgency, asterisk. Greater than contacts imminent, close range, no warning, no support, your gear. Option 4, very concise, asterisk. Greater than close contact, no warning, no backup, gear ready, treated like a routine issue. Regular Army gear wasn't cutting it. The troops switched to M29 Weasel, all-terrain mobility with specialized cold weather gear. Carry gear through anything. Mud, snow, steep climbs. This knife was built for it. Built for close quarters domination, lethal and controlled. Here's the rewritten caption in U.S. English. The structure followed the same logic. The 1st Special Service Force had 3 small combat teams, ready to roll. Logistics and maintenance? Integrated, not centralized. Here's how it works. Frederick kept a close watch. He checked training, rated how they did, switched up rules based on what worked, not just theory, procedures that were just on paper. Mission scrapped in, 42. Weapon without a mission? In the military, that means you don't exist. Pacific Theater needed them. Allied planners prepped to retake this Aleutian island? Kiska. The Japanese took it. It was hell on earth. Trained for this. But invasion plans? Big issue. Commander wanted Fred's guys to hit the beach first. Like a suicide squad, protecting the main army. Freddie got the memo and instantly, he said no. Elite troops aren't disposable speed bumps. He pushed for changed his plan. His men would fight as a unit, not cannon fodder. He led the first wave himself. Battled fog and freezing temps, expecting a fight. Found nothing. The Japanese were long gone. It was a ghost town, just boredom and cold. But it was a crucial test run. Proved his training worked in hell. Supply lines strained, comms tested. Most importantly, they saw their commander had their back. They'd need that trust. New orders came fast. Rehearsal over. Sent to Italy. November 1943. Traded snow for the Bernhardt line's defenses. Regular infantry failed. Frederick had to find a way. He trusted no one but himself. Flew a tiny plane over the objective. Rain and wind raged. Saw sheer cliffs and bunkers. A nightmare. Others would have quit. Frederick planned an attack. Montilá Defensa, a fortress. It had broken the Allied army. Saw 90-degree cliffs. Impossible, they thought. The Germans agreed, left it open. Assumed no one would climb frozen rock at night. They didn't know Frederick. He didn't just plan it. He led it. No artillery. Just darkness, wind, and scraping boots. They scaled the cliff. Emerged like ghosts. Sunrise found Germans fighting a nightmare. Planners expected days of battle. It took 2 hours. Radio crackled. Frederick on the summit, calmly reporting, La Defensa is ours. Staff stunned. But taking it was the easy part. Holding it was brutal. Germans threw everything at the peak. Moonscape of shrapnel. Amidst mud and explosions, Frederick became superhuman. His behavior shifted. An officer painted a vivid picture. Bullets flew, but Frederick wouldn't hide. He moved unit to unit, organizing defense. Barrages intensified. Everyone else dove for cover. When shelling stopped, men emerged. Frederick was still sitting there, unscathed. Another soldier saw him walk upright, telling men to duck while he stood tall. Finally, he sat down, exhausted. A bullet hit his canteen. A normal man would hide deeper. Frederick just looked, annoyed he lost water, then went back to work, unfazed. But his luck wouldn't last. Leading an advance, a mortar round hit. Pain exploded, but he shielded a wounded soldier. Battered, in agony, he pointed to his men first. Not leaving. More mountains to conquer. After mountains, Anzio beachhead. A brutal stalemate. Tasked with defending a huge sector. A division's worth. They couldn't advance, so they'd deny the enemy sleep. The night belonged to them. Aggressive patrols. Terrorize the enemy. Psychological warfare. They left calling cards on bodies. Unit patches with a chilling message. The worst is yet to come. Imagine waking to that sticker. We were here. We could have killed you. Saving you for later. Germans pulled back half a mile. The Black Devils were legendary. But luck runs out. Break out to Rome. Frederick's frontline habit bit him. Scouted ahead. Found 30 Germans. Fearless, but not bad at math. A 30-man ambush? He ran. The man who climbed cliffs ran like hell. Dived into a wheat field as bullets flew. For a moment, he was just a guy hiding. Pinned down until his troops arrived. Rome's campaign took a toll. Wounded repeatedly. A bullet in the thigh. 256 stitches. Most generals would go home. Frederick? Hours in the hospital. Doctor's orders were suggestions. Sneaked out. Limping. Bandaged, but there. His exploits reached the top. Churchill, who backed the unit, felt vindicated. Frederick, leading into Rome? Churchill. A dozen like him we'd have smashed Hitler in. 42. By 1944, war demanded grand strategy. Frederick was moving again. Airborne invasion of France. General Devers. So far, you are the only one. A promotion and a problem. Build a division from scratch. Weeks, not months. A Frankenstein force. American, British, leftovers. Uniformity didn't matter. Just that they shot straight. August 15th. Dropped into France. Disaster. Fog, pilot errors scattered troops. Frederick landed hard, ripping his old wound. Alone. Bleeding. He tied a tourniquet and limped off to find his army. A desperate game of find your friends. Directing paratroopers, gliders, even French resistance. Lost souls found their way. Chaos turned into his command center. It actually worked. This ragtag crew took out comms, blew up supplies, and grabbed towns, before the Germans even knew what hit them. By the time the real invasion landed, Frederick's fake army nabbed 350 POWs, and cleared the whole right flank. General Truscott later said, Frederick's skill in building and leading this mixed force is unreal. But his special ops days were over. After a short, weird border gig, his task force was done. In November 1944, Frederick got a new command, the 45th Infantry Division, the Thunderbirds. This time, he wouldn't be creating the unit. He inherited seasoned troops, exhausted and unsure about their young new leader. The Thunderbirds had fought from Sicily to Italy. When their last commander was injured, Frederick, only 37, took over, the youngest in the U.S. Army. Leading guys who'd seen way more combat than he'd been a general, they weren't instantly impressed. Frederick didn't give a big speech. He just showed up where the fighting was. He hit the front lines, talked to officers and enlisted men, asked questions, listened. The division pushed into Germany in December 1944, but the advance stalled. The German counterattack up north forced a huge shift. The 45th had to cover a massive front with few troops. On New Year's Day, Germany launched Nordwind, hitting the 7th Army hard. The war became a brutal test of endurance. Cold, snow, sheer grit. Frederick didn't have a magic tactic. There wasn't one. He just held his ground. In March 1945, things changed. The 45th crossed the Rhine. They hit tough resistance in Aschaffenburg, defended by everyone. The terrain was a nightmare. Casualties climbed. German commanders offered to talk. Frederick said no partial surrender. The city would quit, or it would be destroyed. After 2 brutal days, Aschaffenburg fell. Then they broke the West Wall, crossed rivers, took thousands of prisoners. Nuremberg, then Munich. In April 1945, the 45th liberated Dachau. It wasn't a battle. It was a reckoning. The soldiers found horrors beyond belief. Starvation, death, survivors overwhelmed. A complete breakdown of humanity. Frederick was ordered to run Munich, managing over 100,000 POWs and survivors. They needed food, shelter, medical aid, security, fast. The war ended soon after. Frederick stayed in the army but focused on training, not combat. He spent his career pushing for realistic training, preserving wartime lessons. His body, though, couldn't keep up. Years of combat had taken their toll. By his mid-40s, Frederick was a wreck. He retired at 44 with heart issues, hearing loss, and a leg scarred from fighting. The father who doubted him was proven spectacularly wrong. Or maybe he was right. Robert Tryon Frederick wasn't a conventional son. He was a system proving the guy who sees a mission suicide risk is often the only one with the logic and madness to pull it off. When the U.S. Army Special Forces launched in the 1950s, they were built like him. Small teams, flexible command, thriving in chaos. Even the symbols lasted. The crossed arrows of the 1st Special Service Force became the Green Berets, insignia. The V-42 knife became legendary. These weren't just honors, they were legacies. Frederick died in 1970, aged 63, much younger than his peers. His legacy wasn't in statues, but in methods that lived on. When modern special ops succeed quietly, they follow paths he blazed. If you think the story of the man who proved his own impossible report wrong deserves to be remembered, hit like and subscribe. He was a paper pusher, but his story, it'll grab you. He proved his impossible report wrong. He deserves to be remembered. Like and subscribe.